All empires claim that their money is secure. All governments assert that the promises they make will stand forever. Yet history repeatedly proves them wrong. From Rome to France, from the Confederacy to modern Lebanon, people have woken up one morning to find their savings worthless, their salaries meaningless, and the future taken from them by the systems they thought were stable. Collapse is not rare in reality. On the contrary, it is the rule itself. What matters is not whether financial systems will collapse, but how you protect yourself when they do. The sense of continuity is the greatest financial trap. We look at our bank accounts, at our country's currency, and say, this is rock solid. But money is not steel, it is trust. And trust can vanish in an instant. That is why history both hurts and teaches. Every collapse leaves traces of what preserves wealth and what turns to dust in an instant. If you look carefully, you notice one thing. Those who survive these disasters are not the most trusting, but those who doubted first. Take, for example, what we often call the Eastern Roman Empire, or the Byzantine Empire. The core of its economy was the solidus, a gold coin so reliable that merchants across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia accepted it without question. For centuries, it functioned as a kind of global reserve currency. The curious thing is that one would expect Byzantium to have learned from Rome's mistakes with the denarius. But it didn't. Centuries later, the Byzantines made the same mistake with gold. They reduced the purity of the coins, mixed alloys, and gradually devalued them. At first, nobody noticed. Then one day trust was shaken. The solidus, which had endured for centuries, became just a political story overnight. The economy collapsed, trade slowed. Who survived? Not government orders, not paper promises. Those who accumulated real gold or land survived. Everyone else watched their money turn to dust. The first lesson is here. Governments cannot resist the urge to weaken their currency. When they do, real value flows to assets they can never create themselves. But not every collapse arises from rulers' economic mistakes. Sometimes the world turns upside down when you least expect it. Take the Black Death. From 1347 to 1351, half of Europe was wiped out. Cities emptied, villages vanished, trade networks collapsed. Its economic effect was not merely a tale of destruction. With almost the entire workforce gone, labor became more valuable than gold. Survivors could demand higher wages. With a reduced population, land and food were abundant. Those with even a small means of payment, silver, goods, or just the ability to work, made huge gains. Lands that once required wealth to acquire could now be bought cheaply. Empty houses, unclaimed fields, opportunities for buyers everywhere. The similarity to today is no coincidence. During COVID, we experienced something alike. Supply chains collapsed, governments spent trillions to keep the system afloat, and those with purchasing power accumulated assets while wage earners struggled. In the US, housing prices soared, stock markets recovered quickly, while people tried to pay rent. The pattern is the same. Pandemics redistribute wealth. Always have. Those who survived the Black Death turned scarcity into opportunity. During COVID, those with purchasing power acquired assets others were forced to liquidate. The lesson is harsh and clear. Crises reward those with savings and crush those without. And if pandemics can overturn an economy overnight, Renaissance Florence reminds us of this truth. Too big to fail is a myth. In the 1340s, Florence was the financial heart of Europe. Banking families like the Bardi and Peruzzi even lent to kings. The real risk, however, lay in the loans to King Edward III of England. When Edward could not repay due to wars, the banks collapsed one by one. Deposits vanished. Trade stopped. The city plunged into chaos. People who trusted the great banks learned painfully that size is not security, and reputation can vanish into dust in an instant. This cycle repeated for centuries, from Florence to Lehman Brothers in 2008, to Lebanese banks freezing accounts in 2019. Too big to fail is only a story told until the crisis arrives. The American Civil War illustrates the same situation from another perspective. Both the North and the South realized that such a massive war could only continue by printing money. The North issued greenbacks, backed by nothing but the government's word. The more greenbacks printed, the less they were worth. Inflation rose, trust declined. In the South, the disaster was complete. The Confederacy printed money recklessly. By the end of the war, prices had skyrocketed, salaries bought nothing, and people carried bread in sacks because cash had effectively disappeared by 1865. In this collapse, what held value were not banknotes but real assets: land, food, gold. The same happened during the French Revolution. Paper money called assignats seemed promising at first. But when the government overproduced it, the currency instantly became worthless. Farmers refused the notes, demanding goods or silver instead. The economic crisis even turned the revolution into a self-destructive force. The winners again were those who held real assets. The 1997 Asian financial crisis was no different. Thailand collapsed under dollar-denominated debt, and the entire region shook. Those with foreign currency survived. Holders of local currency suffered heavy losses. Indebted countries took strict measures, while large funds acquired assets almost for free. The lesson is always the same. Borrowing someone else's money is a deadly risk. Looking at recent history, Lebanese banks from 2019 to 2021 locked their doors. People could no longer access their own money. The currency collapsed. A lifetime of savings turned to dust. The middle class, retirees, doctors, engineers, all those who trusted the system were wiped out. The belief that money in the bank is safe crumbled in an instant. Bank money is not a treasury, it is a loan to an institution. In a crisis, that institution can simply say, "We won't pay." So the question becomes, what is real protection when everything collapses? History gives no single answer. In Byzantium it was gold. After the Black Death it was easily accessible capital. In Florence it was not trusting bankers. In the Confederacy it was physical goods. In France, food and property. In Asia, avoiding currency debt. In Lebanon it was leaving the banks before they locked the doors. But the main idea is always the same. Survivors cling to reality, not paper. And the interesting part is this. Collapse is both destruction and opportunity. A disaster for the unprepared, but a chance to acquire wealth cheaply for those who are ready. Like peasants who suddenly became landowners after the Black Death. Or people with cash buying houses after 2008. History teaches us that protection is not just preventing loss. It is also being in a position to seize opportunities. But wealth is not only about what you own, it is also about what you can do. Those who survived catastrophes were not only gold or property owners, they were capable. The baker who could make bread, the craftsman, the farmer, the trader. Production never becomes meaningless in a crisis. People must always eat, live, and work. This is the true protection. Real assets, real skills, and knowing that illusions eventually collapse. Every crisis is a transfer. From the overly trusting majority to the prepared minority, from paper promises to tangible value, from passive holders to active producers. History repeatedly shows this pattern. Therefore, the question is not, will there be a collapse? There will be. Always. The question is, when it comes, will you have promises in your hand or will you have something real? History does not repeat perfectly, but if you ignore it, it will crush you anyway. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, like and subscribe. Have a good day.